In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at, does stretching increase risk of injury? How we're going to do it, we're going to be looking at some information from a peak performance journal article, and hopefully what I'm also going to do, because I know there's a lot of people who think it does and other people who think it doesn't, I'm going to try and put some context around it, because we are just going to be looking at some results from that article, but what we do want to do is add some real life context to it as well. If you are struggling with your range of movement and you need some help, please do click the link below and you'll go through to my How to Improve Mobility workshop. It's designed to do exactly that. So we take you through full consultation, assessment, and then the workshop where we work on improving whatever range of movement that you need for whatever reason. Could be squatting, deadlifting, could be just everyday range of movement that you need it for. So if that's what you want some help with, please do just click the link below. So for the people that need a quick answer, does stretching increase risk of injury? The simple answer is no, it doesn't, but it does have an impact on performance, and that's what we're going to sort of talk you through as we work through this little tutorial. So from the peak performance article, they looked at two studies on stretching and injury. The first one was 1,538 army recruits, and as you can see here, they had a stretch group and they had a no stretch group or a non-stretch group, and essentially the results was basically the same. So the injuries that you had made up 21.5 from the stretch group and 21.8 from the non-stretch group. So again, it doesn't really say either way. It then went into 421 recreational runners. Again, they had a stretch group and a non-stretch group. And again, you can start to see that they had 5.5 injuries. So they were slightly lower in this study, but slightly higher in this study. So when you look at, and there's going to be people out there that are probably going to shove in the comments, I read this study, I read that study. What is and the sort of the point of this is the fact that one's slightly higher and one's slightly lower. So you're going to read studies where it sort of it proves your point, and you're going to read studies where it doesn't prove your point. So again, what we're looking at is it swings both ways. It's not something that's terribly it's a terrible determinant, but what we are going to do is wrap some everyday context around it as we get a bit further into the tutorial. And then stretching and performance. What we did see was ballistic stretching can reduce knee extension strength by 5 to 7%. Calf muscle strength was 28% lower immediately after the stretching. If you then read the article, what you then find, so there was a little graph and it had all these sort of bars that come off it, and basically what it was saying is this was immediately after, and then as time went on, the strength returned. So there is an immediate effect of, that was percentage of strength, obviously here, that was 28%, but then the strength started to return as it went higher. So what we can see here is, yes, there is an immediate decrease, but again, over time, that strength returns. So again, what you can start to see is the context that I'm going to be putting into it. First of all, it depends why you're using it. So why are you using the stretch before? Because there can be some reasons why you would use it before. And what are you doing in between the stretch and then let's just say the performance workout or the workout? Because if you're able to give it time, the strength will return. It's just immediately after. So again, we have to understand the little nuances and the little context. What you've also got here is the ballistic stretching. Now again, it's only 5 to 7%, which again isn't a huge amount. The calf strength is a bit more of an effect. But again, you've then got to put into the context of that. It's not stretching as an entire umbrella. It's a very specific type of stretching, which is ballistic stretching. So again, that has to be put into the mix as well. So again, you've got to think, why are you using the ballistic stretching before, and what effect is that going to have? And again, does that have an effect if I'm doing it immediately before, or is it going to be, am I going to be doing the exercise somewhat after, so the strength is going to return? So we have to understand it from those perspectives. So if you come up against people that are just saying don't do stretching before because it ruins your performance, there is some context and some nuance that needs to come with that, because you have to understand why what's the goal of the session? Why are they not using it before? Against why is someone using it before? So again, I could go on that sort of tangent for a long time. Again, we just have to understand the context. And finally, we're talking about, should we be stretching before exercise? Well, as I've mentioned, there are some things we need to understand before. So it depends on the personal goals and fitness levels of the person, because what we may have is a beginner with a lack of range of movement. So obviously we want to open out that range of movement before we exercise. There will be some range of movement gained just by the muscles getting warmer, and as the workout goes, the range of movement will improve. But certainly with a beginner, you're not focused on, let's just say, out and out performance to start with. So what we would do is we would go through some sort of protocol to open out the range of movement. And what that will do is that will open out the joint. What they'll then be able to do is go through greater ranges of movement. And then what we can do is layer on top the performance. But what we don't want to do is put the performance on a tight or an unstable foundation. We want to put it on a well-working joint, because if we just layer it on top of a poorly working joint, then we're going to get problems, because we're doing fitness training on a shaky foundation, if you will. Then we've got beginners which have good range of movement. Again, they may need proprioception. They may need, if they are in some, not necessarily hypermobile, but you do get some, they need to be able to control their range of movement. So just by using stretching, it can just calm down the muscles, which can allow them to not twitch so fast, so it can aid the stability. So again, there are reasons for using it, but there are reasons for not using it. If they are stable and they have good range of movement, you can start focusing on the performance end of the spectrum a little bit more. But we have to understand who we're using it on, why we're using it, and why we would use the stretching before. And then we've got the same for more advanced, because in some respects the same will apply. So you can have people that have worked in the gym or working out, or sports people that have been doing it for years, but they've got a lack of range of movement. Again, they could be getting injured regularly, and it could be because of their lack of range of movement. It could be for other reasons, but it could be, or it's certainly the lack of range of movement or the joint tightness could be playing its part as well. So all of this has to be taken into consideration. So just to have a sweeping statement that stretching isn't good to do at the start of a workout isn't that helpful, because there are people that I don't stretch before a workout, or I do minimal. I just essentially just sort of get them prepared and off we go. But there are some people that I do much more with. Or if that person that I don't do it with comes in and they're all a bit gnarled up, a bit tight, a little bit niggly injuries, I will stretch them before, and I just won't do as an intense a workout. So again, you have to understand what you're doing, why you're doing it. Look at the person in front of you immediately when they walk in the door, and what is it that they need? What is it that's going to improve them? Because if it's just, you're just loading on more intensity on top of lack of range of movement, tight joints, niggly injuries, then that's going to cause a problem in the future. So again, all of this has to be taken into consideration, and you can't just look at these sweeping statements that say you shouldn't do it, because it could be the very thing that is needed to prevent an injury or to overcome an injury, or whatever it may be. Now, again, this conversation, I could give you more examples, I could give you more scenarios in which, you know, it can be used, but hopefully I've kind of got the point across in that, does stretching increase risk of injury? No. Does it affect performance? Yes. But these two depend on what stood in front of you: the person, their goals, and their fitness levels. If you've enjoyed this content and you've learned something, stick what you've learned in the comments below. If you've got any questions about what I've talked about, again, stick a comment below, and I'll be able to answer it. If you've liked it, if you've enjoyed the content, please do hit the like button. It will help my tutorials get more in the way of significance within the algorithm. And hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified when I release more tutorials. Many thanks for watching. I'll speak to you in the next tutorial.